Welcome to this course titled Standards-Based Objectives, as designed and produced by the Region 11 Service Center. In this module, the learning objective will be to locate and define parts of the TEKS and use a 4M strategy in order to create standards-based lesson objectives. For today's presentation, you'll need a copy of your subject and grade level TEKS. These can be found at tea.texas.gov/curriculum/TEKS. You'll also need a copy of Teach Like a Champion 2.0 by Doug Lemov. At the conclusion of this course, you'll have an opportunity to demonstrate your understanding of the stated learning objective by participating in a demonstration lab sponsored by Region 11 certification team. During the demonstration lab, you'll present a 10-minute mini-lesson in which you'll model how to create standards-based objectives. You'll receive feedback based on the proficiency rubric you see on the screen, and to earn credit for the course, participants must score at the proficient or master's level. Now that we know the learning objective and how it will be assessed, we're ready to get started. You may be asking yourself, what are the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, also known as TEKS? Well, they're the state-mandated curriculum standards that establish what every student from kindergarten to grade 12 should know and be able to do by the end of that course or grade. Some important things to know about the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, or TEKS, are that they're written by Texas educators. They were adopted by the State Board of Education in 1997. They're non-negotiable, and they're the sole source for the STAR test. There's also a review process for revising and updating the TEKS. However, the TEKS don't provide a complete scope and sequence, nor a course outline. The TEKS are also not all of the essential skills and knowledge students could have when entering your class. The TEKS do provide an outline of the most important essential skills and knowledge that every student must have. So why do we even have the TEKS? Well, the TEKS help align standard curriculum development. They direct instructional materials, resource selection, and drive lesson planning. In addition, they inform families and members of the community about what's being taught in their schools. Let's take a moment to walk through the structure of the TEKS. There are 4 foundational areas within the TEKS, which are often referred to as the core contents. We have English Language Arts and Reading, Math, Science, and Social Studies. In addition to the 4 core contents, there are enrichment areas including Fine Arts, Physical Education, Technology Application, Languages other than English, Health, Religious Literature, and even Career and Technical Education. In every content, there are 4 parts to the TEKS. There's the introduction, the strands, the knowledge and skill statements, and the student expectations. Let's take a moment to look at a graphic organizer to see the structure more clearly. So here we have a hierarchy breakdown of the TEKS. The introduction begins every grade level and subject of the TEKS. The strands are next and are overarching concepts. Next to each strand, there are knowledge and skill statements. And finally, under each knowledge and skill statement, there are student expectations. The introduction provides key contextual information and a brief overview of the essential knowledge and skills for a greater course. On this slide, we have a portion of the introduction for the 6th grade mathematics TEKS. At this time, please pause the video, bracket your introduction, and read through the entire introduction, highlighting key terms and taking notes of any questions that you may have. Below the introduction, we have our strands. You could think of the strands as organizers for the knowledge and skill statements. On this slide, the boxes indicate the strands for 6th grade mathematics. In this particular sample of the TEKS, mathematical process standards and number and operations are the first 2 strands. please pause the video and box all the strands in your selected TEKS. Next to each strand, there are knowledge and skill statements, and they're the what of each TEK. They provide the concepts and skills that are to be learned for the subject and grade level. Here we have a portion of the knowledge and skill statements for 6th grade mathematics. Please pause the video and underline all the knowledge and skill statements in your selected TEKS. The student expectations are below the knowledge and skill statements, and are expectations of how each concept and skill can be demonstrated. In this sample of 6th grade mathematics TEKS, we could see the circled letters are the student expectations. Take this time to pause the video and circle all the student expectations in your selected TEKS. In this slide, we've included a photo of a knot to illustrate that knowledge and skill statements and student expectations are forever bound and married together. They can't be separated, otherwise they lose their meaning. Now that we've completed the beginning section of the module, please pause the video and take the practice quiz located in Canvas to check your understanding. Now that we know what the TEKS are, how they're laid out, and how they function, let's move on to the next portion of the module. The following quote by the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey, helps put the TEKS into perspective. He says, "To begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. It means to know where you're going so that you better understand where you are now, and so the steps that you take are always in the right direction." Thinking about the destination of our students, we have an overview here that helps consider planning with the end in mind. Beginning with the end in mind maximizes student achievement by ensuring that teachers plan to teach the most critical content for the grade. The 3 big goals you need to focus on for this lesson planning will be a daily 4M learning outcome or objective using your grade level and subject TEKS. Next, you'll plan a daily exit ticket or other formative assessment. Following that, you'll focus on the daily lesson plan. Alignment of these 3 is key to being successful. In this portion of the module, we'll be focusing on the daily 4M learning objectives. At this time, please pause the video and read pages 137 to 140 about 4M objectives in your Teach Like a Champion book. A lesson objective is the goal your students strive to meet at the end of a lesson. It sets a target for how students will be smarter after doing the work in class. From your reading, you learned that the 4 M's are manageable, measurable, made first, and most important. When we talk about an objective being manageable, we mean that the objective should be taught within a single class period, just 1 lesson at a time. This means that if you're working to teach a complex skill, you should build a series of day-to-day objectives that will lead to mastery of the skill, rather than vaguely working on it for several days. Here are some examples and non-examples of how to make a lesson objective more manageable. Note how the examples are more specific than the non-examples and can likely be completed in 1 day's lesson. Another component of 4M is having the objective be measurable. An effective objective should be written so students can measure their success by the end of a single class. This is also a way for the teacher to gauge how successful the lesson was. Part of making an objective measurable is being precise about the knowledge and level of understanding you want the students to acquire by the end of a lesson. Please pause the video and read these non-examples and examples of how to make a lesson objective measurable. Take note of how there are explicit ways to measure learning. The third component of the 4M lesson objective strategy is that the objective is made first. The objective should be created first and is written to guide your lesson activities based on your TEKS, not the other way around. This means the objective should not be written to justify the activities you've already chosen. Please pause the video and read through the TEKS non-examples and examples of how lesson objectives were made first. You should be able to see how the teacher linked vocabulary from the TEKS and related it to the chosen content. The final component of the 4M lesson objective strategy is most important. An objective should focus on what's most important. Teachers need to choose activities and assessments carefully. These items should always be pushing students toward their next step in education. Again, here we have some examples and non-examples of creating objectives that are most important. Please pause the video and read through how to make a lesson objective the most important thing on the path to college. You could see that the examples are more rigorous and academic than the non-examples. Now that you've learned the components of a 4M objective, please pause the video and practice reading your TEKS and begin developing 4M standards-based learning objectives. These TEKS and objectives will be needed for your mini lesson. Remember, you'll need 3 4M objectives to score proficient and 4 4M objectives to score masters in the mini lesson. So keeping the TEKS and objectives in mind, what do we do next? Well, the next step is to post your objective in your room. The learning objectives should be posted in the same location every day, and the objectives should be written as simply as possible so your students can understand. Obviously, the objective should identify your purpose for teaching that day. For more information about posting lesson objectives, see pages 140 to 143 in your Teach Like a Champion book. Along with posting your objective in your room, you'll need to communicate your lesson objective to students. At the beginning of every lesson, you should communicate the learning objective verbally and engage students in a brief discussion of how the learning objective connects to previous lessons or units. You can also increase student buy-in by coming to an understanding of how mastering the objective is important in the context of students' lives. Now that you've learned the basic components of the TEKS and how to write a 4M learning objective, let's review the proficiency rubric one more time. During the demonstration lab, you'll present a 10-minute mini lesson in which you model how to create standard-based objectives. You'll receive feedback based on the proficiency rubric you see on the screen. To earn credit for this course, participants must score at the proficient or master's level. The following slide contains a few tips to help you with your 10-minute mini lesson. You're going to want to bring your pre-written, TEKS-based 4M objectives. Be prepared to share your thought process on how you created them. Post them up using chart paper or on a whiteboard. Communicate them verbally to the class and engage them in a discussion about your learning objectives. Thanks for watching this course module titled Standards-Based Objectives. Good luck and feel free to review this video at any time as you prepare for your upcoming mini lesson. Today's material referenced the book Teach Like a Champion 2.0 by Doug Lemov and used downloaded images from Pixabay and Unsplash.